English Shorthand Dictation-238. Dictation speed 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, the reply to the President's address is a very important part of the proceedings of the House. It has many unique features. It is the only mandatory thing without which the Parliament cannot start. Earlier, the mandatory nature was that you would have the President's address before each session started. We amended it in 1951 because we did not want to trouble the President so many times in a year. In a sense, without the President's address and its reply, no debate is possible. It is, in fact, one of the most important debates in the entire calendar year. Earlier, there was also a procedure whereby it had to start the next day after the President's address without any other business being taken up. We have also slightly amended that now. We are expected to start soon after, but not immediately. Another unique feature is that in many parliamentary democracies, especially those linked to the British Commonwealth system, this debate in reply to the motion on President's address can go up to 15 days. In Canada, the usual customary duration is 1 month. In our parliament, we give 3 days for this debate. The idea is to open a channel of communication between the government and the legislature. As we know, the President is nothing else but the government as far as this particular provision of the Constitution is concerned, and any such channel of communication cannot be clogged. It is a vital source of communication between the Government of India and the legislature, and this clogging of communication can lead to unnecessary problems. In a sense, it is a review of the year gone by. It is also a trailer for the future. And finally, it is a tribute to Indian democracy that we discuss, debate, and disagree. But it is always passed unanimously with or without amendments, and that is the strength of Indian democracy. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, this is the time to sit back and to express satisfaction over the achievements made so far. They need to be highlighted even if some of them are obvious. They need to be reiterated and underlined. However, it is also a time to introspect in a non-partisan manner. It is important to introspect for nation building. It is important to be self-critical because there are always many miles to walk which remain. It is also important to be self-critical because while we applaud the glass half full, we try to make sure that the stream of that glass half full is clear, unpolluted, and pure. We also not only recognize but also empathize with the glass half empty. It is most importantly a time to dream. It is a time to dream about India and India's future. Dreaming permits each and every one of us to be quietly and safely insane every night of our lives. Sir, we are the world's second fastest growing economy after China. We have been growing at 6% for 27 years. For the last 4 years, we have been growing at above 8%. An international report suggests that we would achieve double-digit growth in the near future. Several reports suggest that by 2025, we would be ahead of Japan as the world's third largest economy after the United States and China. Car sales are touching the figure of 8 million per year in our country. In the United States, for the top 10 management schools to recruit people who apply for jobs, it takes 2 months on an average. On the other hand, for the top 10 schools in India, it takes less than 4 hours. That is the spirit of a rising India. But this spirit has to be tempered by reality. The reality around us can be equally shocking. We have 25% people living below the poverty line. Incidentally, I read an interesting article the other day about how this enumeration of poverty is done. If between the last year and this year somebody has got a fan or somebody has got a toilet made, then he is struck off the BPL list. So, there are actually people who are interested in hiding the extra toilet that they have made over the last 1 year because they are scared of losing their BPL status. But let us stick to our own definition. It is not, and it can never be, a matter of pride for this country to have 25% people below the poverty line. What is more important is that the rate of decrease is relatively small and slow. The rate of decrease has been under 1% of this poverty line. What is even more important is that in this overall figure of 25%, it hides interstate disparity. There are states like Punjab which have had a ratio of 6% people below the poverty line. If 6% is the figure of Punjab and the average is 25%, you can imagine that there is an interstate disparity in a lot of states which is well above 25%. What is still more important is that there is intra-state disparity. Parts of Bihar or Chhattisgarh or Madhya Pradesh would have rates of poverty different from their own state average. It is for this reason that the Honorable President's address speaks of inclusive growth. This is the rationale underlying that phrase. This is why we say that the 10% growth must be inclusive, but it must go as much to manufacturing sector as to the service sector. It must go to the agriculture sector also. Most importantly, it must display a greater inclusion of labor and economies of scale. If we look at the true human development indicator, only one figure is enough, and that is malnutrition. With 40% of malnutrition and 25% people below the poverty line, we cannot be self-congratulatory. That is why the central government's budgetary support to key sectors has been unprecedented, especially during the UPA regime. These figures are known, but they are striking, and therefore I must point out that the allocation on 3 key sectors, that is agriculture, health and rural development, has been tripled between the 10th and the 11th 5-year plans. In fact, if you add education, these 4 sectors account for over half of the 11th plan. The budget is hardly a week old. The budget maintains all the significant schemes initiated by this government, whether it is the drinking water mission or the Jawaharlal Nehru urban renewal mission or the rural employment scheme. There are many more, and the President's address mentions them. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, I am referring to those elements which have found specific mention in the Honorable President's address. It is the collective ownership of the people which is the underlying theme in the budget. No tree can flower. No tree can bear fruits unless its roots are strong, unless the bottom and the lower levels of pyramid feel involved, unless the gap between the different sections is closed, you cannot hope to have real growth.